Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday. I hope you guys have a good morning. We have here Cheryl. She's a lovely lady that just joined us as a mentor. Today, she's going to be covering a little bit about crowdfunding and how to use it, when to use it, and some of the tweaks of having a successful crowdfunding. So thank you so much for joining us today, Cheryl. I really appreciate the time. And just as a reminder, she's a mentor. So if you guys are interested in being mentored by her, feel free to email me. You guys have my email information, so I can put you in contact with her. So with that, I'll pass it off to you.
Thanks so much, Gabriella. It's so nice to meet everybody. Happy Friday morning. I'm here in New York, so it'd be remiss to say, that we're thinking of everyone today on 9/11. So sending lots of love to everybody, especially in California and all around the world. It's been an incredibly challenging time, but it's phenomenal people that are coming together. And I'm so honored to be a mentor at Plug and Play and excited to work with you guys and talk about one of my secret passions, which is crowdfunding. I'm super excited about 5 or 6 years ago, I left my corporate world, which was installing a software package called SAP, which is the largest software package in the world. And I used to be a senior project and program manager, going around the world and installing that at Fortune 100 companies. We used to have a joke that SAP stands for, submit another payment, or, sit and pray. But I took a step away from that and got into startup land myself and launched a crowdfunding platform called PieShell, which is how I got into crowdfunding. It was a reward-based platform focused on anything food or beverage, so food tech, CPG, restaurants, hospitality. And it was a phenomenal exercise because it was a wonderful way to bring people together. And one of the things that became very evident very fast is that crowdfunding is actually a horrible name, because it's really not about the funding. And that's one of the things that I'm excited to share with you folks. And so I wanted to get into that and talk a little bit about that. So I'm going to share a little bit of a presentation, and we're going to allow questions in the chat. So what Gabriella shared, we'll have about 20 minutes at the end, if not more. And I'm happy to answer any and all questions. And as she said, I'm thrilled to be a mentor. I also work at WeWork Labs, Ready to Raise. I mentor at some of the largest accelerators here in New York and in Canada as well. I'm Canadian, so if you hear me say out and about, it's all fair play. That's the motherland. And so I'm excited to share this with you folks. So give me 1 second, I'll share my screen and we'll get started. All right. So one of the things that, as I said, I wanted to share is one of the titles when I was working with Gabriella on this is, what do we want to call this? And I said, I think that one of the big things that people talk about a lot when they're, raising money for your startup, and I work with so many entrepreneurs at all different levels of pre-seed to series A, B, have a phenomenal pool of investors, is, smart money. And that's one of the secrets of crowdfunding, is that it really is going to be the smartest money that you might ever raise. And that's one of the things that we wanted to share today. And that's going to be the focus of how to do this. So, one of the things I often ask people, they'll come to me, I work with Indiegogo. I know Slava, the founder, he also has a different fund, but I work with them and the head of sales. I work with all of the equity crowdfunding guys, Republic, Seed Invest, Start Engine, Micro Ventures. And one of the big things that people think about is they're like, oh, okay, this is a new way to get money, and that's why I'm going to crowdfund. But that's actually not the number one reason that people use crowdfunding. And so just think to yourself what you think that might be, and then we're going to share what that is. Proof of concept. It is one of the most successful ways to show that people actually want what you are selling. And that's one of the reasons why, even in the little bit of a blurb that we put out, I said, there are also companies that are B2B and they think, I can't use crowdfunding. My argument to that is always, if you can sell your product, then you can crowdfund your product. Because you, at the end of the day, are going to your ultimate customer. And that's your crowd. That's where you're going to. And so what you're able to do by crowdfunding your product and or service. It can be a service as well. I actually, full disclosure, I'm a little crazy. I launched a crowdfunding platform. I used Indiegogo to raise my initial funding. I used Seed Invest to raise my equity funding. I raised over $500,000 for a crowdfunding company on crowdfunding platforms. Yeah, I'm a little crazy and I'm a little all in, but it really does give that feedback that people are looking to use your platform. So that's the number one reason why people use it. I'm sure that the second reason will be because they want the money. Nope, that is not why people are using it either. The second reason is for marketing. And the third reason is to build community. What you are actually doing by creating the project, whether it's equity, whether it's a reward-based project, is you are doing a lot of work at the beginning of your project. The most successful companies in the world have spent sometimes up to a year getting ready to launch a reward-based crowdfunding project. The people that think that they just throw something out there and there's this unicorn effect and the platform's going to bring everybody to you, they're the ones that really need to understand that that's not actually how it works. By you pulling together all of your resources, all of your marketing, Facebook ads, email lists, things like that, that's what people are really getting behind. And the whole point of it is that the crowd of people are so much more important than the actual money, which is where we get into the fact that this is the smartest money you're going to raise. Think about it this way. If you're getting ready to launch your business or put out a new brand or put out a new item, you're trying to figure out how to market that item to this crowd. You might put it out on an Amazon, you might put it on your own site. In many cases, you don't actually know who's buying your product. You absolutely have zero contact with them usually. You're not going to have their names, you're not going to have their emails, and you're going to be putting out ads and hoping that someone clicks on it and goes to a website and buys what you're selling. But when you're actually crowdfunding, you own the entire process from beginning to end. You're going to be building out ads, you're going to be building out infographics, you're going to be messaging your own story, you're going to be leveraging your social media, and you're going to be bringing in this huge community of people, which ultimately are going to turn into consumers. These are also people that, if you're using equity crowdfunding, can become owners in your company. So, you know, if you look at what they're going to be bringing you, this is giving you a phenomenal opportunity for market validation. Where are you ever going to get the opportunity to get in front of tens of hundreds of thousands of people and ask them what they really think about your product or service? You have what we call in-home focus groups that you'll be able to do. You're truly inside someone's homes. You can be sending them surveys. You can get critical feedback. It's one of the reasons why some of the huge corporates are using it. One of the companies I'm working with is a huge enterprise company, $700 million. They actually are owned by the parents of the company that creates iPhones. They're coming out, they're a B2B typically, they're coming out with a B2C product, and they want to know if this is even wanted. If you're a big enterprise type client, think of how long it would take to put together a product launch, get that out to the market, spend the money to manufacture the item, market the hell out of the item, put it out there in the world, hope someone buys it. This way, they're able to do it in a much smaller run. They're able to manage all of their costs. And then if they find out, heaven forbid, that this is not something that people are looking for or something that people want, they're able to take that feedback, pivot, prove what people are looking for, make changes to their product, take that critical item, and instead of dropping $500,000 on some sort of a run, they've dropped maybe 50 to 70,000, maybe 100,000, and they've got that feedback that they're going to do. The other element is customer loyalty. One of the biggest things that crowdfunding brings is a ridiculously loyal group of people. There's a company out of Scotland called Brewdog. They do this in spades. They are a craft brewery. And one of the things to remember, I know a lot of you are from all around the world. In the UK, crowdfunding has been there for far longer than the United States. Equity crowdfunding allows you to raise much, much more than you can in the United States. In the US, the limit today on equity crowdfunding is $1.7 million. There's actually something that's been in front of the SEC to raise that to $5 million. We hope, and all indications are that might be coming into play by the end of this year, before the end of 2020. So that would be phenomenal for startups to actually be able to raise up to 5 million instead of just $1 million. But what you actually have are true, passionate, investors in your business. And even if it's a reward-based product where they're going to get your product and they're going to see it, they're all invested in you. In some cases, it's truly in the sense of an investable item where they actually own stock. Most people use something called a SAFE now, which was created by Republic. It follows along the line with the YC SAFE in a similar vein, so that you don't have that many people on your cap table, because that was one of the challenges with crowdfunding when you think about it. But these are absolute people that are ride or die. And so that customer loyalty, whether you've given them an incredibly robust discount on an early version of a product, or whether you've given them equity in your business, these are people that want you to be successful. They feel like they were there with you from day one. They really believe in what you're doing, and they are the ones that are going to amplify your brand to a level that you would never be able to do on your own. You can try and get viral. You can pay some of the best PR companies in the world. But if you're a company like Brewdog, which, as I mentioned, is a craft brewer out of Scotland, just one of their raises raised $34 million in 2018 with 70,000 people. Think about that. $34 million with 70,000 investors. That is amplification that you really cannot buy. But those people don't feel like they've thrown away their money. They've been enveloped into the Brewdog mentality. They feel like they truly own part of this brewery and that they are the pivotal foundation for this company to be successful. It's very, very similar when you are doing something on the reward-based stage, whether you're running a Kickstarter, an Indiegogo, or a Seed and Spark, whatever platform you're using. Those people that come in early and truly get behind your product, they're going to go out there and they're going to tell two friends, and they're going to tell two friends, and so on and so on. And they're going to really help be some of the most amazing brand ambassadors, which is obviously one of the other benefits. Brand awareness. And what do all of these things bring your business? Of course, they bring brand awareness, market validation, they allow amplification of your brand, they're going to bring new customers. But some of the silver linings of crowdfunding, I always sort of talk about crowdfunding as it's very much like a glacier where you see a little bit on the top, but there's so much more that's happening underneath. And you're going to get phenomenal media opportunities. People are going to be reaching out to you. They're going to be seeing the success of your project, assuming, of course, it's successful, which is something that's critically important, which is why all of the pre-work before you're getting ready to launch is so important and so validating. But you're going to be reached out to by incredible media. Media now absolutely watches every single platform to see which ones are knocking it out of the park. They're looking to see which ones are some of the most innovative and new and cutting edge brands, and how you're messaging yourself and how you're putting yourself out there. The other thing that happens, which sometimes people are never aware of, you might look at how much funding is raised on a reward platform, whether it's 25,000, whether it's over $1 million. You might look at an equity crowdfunding platform and see that they raised $250,000, $750,000, but that's only through that platform. What you're not really maybe realizing is that by showing how successful you are on one of those platforms, by actually growing your audience and showing the number of people that have invested in you or have pre-purchased, which is what a lot of people think of as a Kickstarter and Indiegogo as a pre-sale platform. investors of all types, family funds, angels, venture capital arms, they're all looking at those companies now, and they're looking at you, and that is showing them that people want your product, which is one of the most critical elements for them to invest in you. Remember, if you're going to go out and do any sort of a round, what you need to do is reduce the risk to that investor. I run a fun, super little online event company, and one of the called realtalk.com. And one of the super cool events that we just had in the summer was where we talked to actual venture capitalists. And the thing they want you to know is they need you as much as you need them. But at the end of the day, they have to make money from you. Of course, we want them to like you as a startup, and we want them to like you as a founder team. But the number one way you're going to get in front of them is by showing them that you have something that someone wants. And that's one of the greatest benefits that having this huge crowd behind you is going to bring you. You're going to show validation. You're going to show, what people are liking about your product. You're going to show that interest from people. You're going to show customers. You're going to show revenue at the end of the day. And that's a phenomenal way to do it. The thing that you need to remember too is that by pulling all of this together and by having an incredibly successful product, you are going to, in most cases, specifically if you're using a reward-based platform where you're actually going to be sharing your product or service with this world, you're going to be able to show, can you actually deliver it? You've probably seen, maybe you've even invested or contributed to projects that have had this challenge where they have been so incredibly successful that they haven't been able to deliver when they want to deliver. I've worked with a company called Silo, which is an amazing new invention kind of thing where it's reinventing Tupperware, for lack of a better word, or Rubbermaid. They had over $1.4 million raised on Kickstarter and fully admit that now their number one challenge is actually meeting that demand. It's one of the things that can be critical. It's one of those, be careful what you wish for. You, of course, want to have an incredibly successful crowdfunding campaign where you do pre-sale crazy amounts of money and product and service. But what happens? What happens when it's done and it's 1 month, 2 months, 10 months, and you still haven't delivered to that audience? People are going to watch that as well, and they're going to judge you based on that. Of course, you're going to hear about Twitter trolls, and people are maybe going to have some challenges, but this is where it's really going to show the character of your team, and people are going to be able to see how you have worked with that. How open are you to your audience? How communicative? How transparent are you? How honest are you? Are you going to turn around and try and upsell people as a result to try and make up for this delay in getting the product out to them? These are the kind of things that people are going to see, and you need to be really careful of that risk of overexposure. I'm working with a client right now. They're in the adult space. They're putting out an adult site specifically for women. That's their focus, and they're limiting lifetime memberships. They don't want to, bite their nose to spite their face and be so incredibly successful when they launch on the platform that they then turn around and don't have anything left to actually sell, which will have higher margins and actually make more funding. So, these are things to definitely keep in mind that you want to be very cognizant of and very careful of. You want to be able to reach out to these audiences and to be able to successfully deliver what you have offered. If it happens to be an equity play, one of the companies I worked with in the fall was one that reached the maximum of $1.07 million. Only just as another reminder, equity crowdfunding has been out since 2016. That's when it was blessed in May of 2016. So it's newish. And, some people think of crowdfunding, and it has a little bit of a negative connotation sometimes. People think you're desperate if you're using crowdfunding as a method of funding your company. And one of the things that I try and explain to people is that, crowdfunding is like online dating from 10 or 15 years ago. It's a new way to do something. It's not the only way. It's not the right way. It's not the wrong way. I work with a lot of clients, and when we look at what their funding, path will be, I am the first one to say that crowdfunding might not be the best option for them at that point in time. But as you look at how you want your funding model to happen, crowdfunding should be in the conversation. And it also should be in your marketing plan, looking at ways to market yourself. But I joke and say that crowdfunding is like online dating from 10 or 15 years ago. Back then, you were also thought you were desperate if you went online to find a date. Now that's the only way to do it. No one's doing anything, especially in COVID times. No one's going out in real time and meeting people. The idea of doing that sounds crazy. So, understand that it's a new and evolving space. And when we talk about the benefit of it being a marketing tool, you can spend so much money marketing your company and never see those dollars back. I think it was Warren Buffett that said, yes, we spent $50 million in marketing and we know that 50% of it worked. We just don't know what 50. And so, that's the challenge you have when you use straight marketing dollars going into Facebook ads and online ads and PR and press and media and events and networking and all of those standard tools. But you typically can't, one for one equate that for like a sale, but you can when you're doing crowdfunding. You can see that exactly where your money's going. You can spend $50,000 to market and raise $250,000. So you absolutely get your money back. And so that's something also to keep in mind. And also, we want to be very honest. We want you to know that there are still investors that are going to look at this as a negative. And it's all how you message it. If you have that question from an investor of why did you crowdfund and why did you use that as a tool for your fundraising at any point in the stage of where you are, whether you're pre-seed, whether you're Series B, and you're just looking to use it truly as a marketing tool to get more information out there from people and get more feedback and, focus groups and things like that. It's never the message, it's the delivery. It's how you're going to share that information with investors and how you're going to sell them on why you did something. So, that's something that we also want people to explain. Something that's also a proven fact is that if you have a successful crowdfunding project, you 90% of the time are still in business up to 4 years later. We all know the horrors of startup land. We all know the statistic that 9 out of 10 startups aren't going to be here next year. You're going to do everything right and still not be successful. Why wouldn't you want to take a look at a tool that absolutely helps increase the success of your business? 90% of companies. Think about that. That's insane that from 1 to 4 years later, they're still in business. That's phenomenal. And that's a wonderful platform. And it's another great reason of when you're talking to media or investors of explaining why you're doing something like this. The reason that these companies are still in business are, again, bringing it full circle, are because of all of the amazing things that we just talked about. You've marketed yourself. You've taken that marketing, you've done A/B testing. You've seen what messages are resonating with your crowd that you've grown. You've built this community of support, whether it's a Facebook group that's now 300, 400, 500,000 fans strong. The company I worked with in the fall, Mealthy, they're a competitor to Instant Pot. They had a phenomenal network. We just leveraged that network. They had over 350,000 people in a Facebook group. So taking them to $1 million with equity crowdfunding was easy peasy on paper. It was reaching out to those people that had been their number one fans and saying, hey, you helped us get here. We want you to be owners in our company. And then, within 75 days, they were fully funded. It was an amazing project, but taking that opportunity and growing and building that support of people. Think about it. If you come out with a new item, if they believed in your first item, and they bought that and it worked. Now you're coming out with a new extension, which on a reward-based site is something that a lot of people do. They come out with the very first item. You're a brand new brand. You've got one item out there. Then you reach out to that community and you say, you know what? You were here with us at the beginning. Here's a new brand item. Here's a new brand extension. We want you to be a select group. Sometimes people don't realize there are secret perks that are on these platforms that you can do just for the select people that get you to that first launching pad. The stats are if you raise 30% of what you're raising in the first 2 days of launching any sort of a campaign, you have a 70% chance of getting your goal. That first 30%, those are your ride or die people. Those are your closest network and your closest community. And yeah, I'm not going to lie, on crowdfunding, you want that community ideally to come from your own network. I always say to people, assume the platform brings you nothing. Assume that it's just a platform that provides a tool to get you in front of people. Think of it just as a website where you can share your story, you can put out your video, but do the hard work to grow your community prior to launching anything. There's nothing throwaway from a crowdfunding activity. If you launch a landing page, you gather emails, you get the people, you grow your network on social, you grow investor lists, you grow all sorts of things, and then you launch your campaign. There's not anything that's throwaway. You've learned how to craft your story, you've built video, you've created content, you've got phenomenal photos, you know your message, you've got this community. Those are the types of things that are going to help you be and keep that successful business, because you've learned how to build something, you've learned how to launch, you've learned how to grow a community, you've learned how to manage that money wisely, you have successfully learned how to deliver the item that you said you were going to deliver, meet those guidelines, share with shareholders, board members, advisors, customers. You've learned how to talk to them and truly message for them. Those are the types of things that are going to help you be more successful in a business, which is one of the reasons why you are going to be one of the 90% that are still in business after a successful project. So, it's one of the things that, I love so much about crowdfunding is all of the ancillary benefits that it brings you as a company. And that's something that is so underrated from, some of these companies, and people, they don't really understand some of the secrets that are working. When I was working with PieShell, I was working with corporate clients. We were looking at Campbell's, and they had new innovative ideas they wanted to put out there because they really want the feedback of their customers. But if you're walking into a Kroger, picking up a can of soup off a shelf, they have no idea what you're thinking. They can't get in front of you. So, a lot of enterprise clients are now using it as a pre-sale tool to really find out what you're doing. When you can ask and learn from your customer, I say a lot of times with a lot of the clients that I work with, I'm like, do you want to be right or do you want to be rich? And a lot of times companies come into startup land and they have such pure visions of what they want their business to be. And I don't want to take that away from you, but I want you to understand that you maybe need to listen to what your ultimate customer is saying. They might not be ready for your ultimate end goal. And so if you did it incrementally in steps and really had an audience to hear what they're saying, to deliver what they're looking for today, and then move them to where you need them to be for tomorrow, then that's something that's really going to help move your business forward. And those are some of the reasons why, crowdfunding is such an amazing opportunity and why I'm so excited. I obviously just love it. And one of the reasons why I'm so excited to share a little bit more about what it can and what it can't do for you. So, I'm super excited about this, and I know that we wanted to leave about 20 minutes at the end of the project, and so. But I thought that what I actually wanted to do is, that's about it for now on a high level of sort of what I was thinking, and so I thought, we'll stop that, and I'd love to open it up for questions, and to be able to talk to people and see what sort of things that they're sort of looking for, and how we can maybe, and I'd love to answer any very specific questions as well that people might have that, Cheryl, how could we do this or how could we do that? Because that's sometimes the best way and real examples for other people and how their companies are working and how they might leverage this phenomenal tool. So
thank you so much for this presentation. I think it was very insightful, and I hope the startups have enjoyed. We have a couple of questions here. Again, just as a reminder, feel free to tap your questions into the Q&A box. If you want to raise your hand as well, you can, and we'll bring you to speak with Cheryl. So the first question is, hello, at some point you discussed how crowdfunding can be successful in biotech life science tools companies and not DTC business.
So I think, at the end of the day, that is, a similar thing of, you're probably more of a B2B play. So the reward-based model might not really be the one for you. But by doing equity crowdfunding, one of the secrets of equity crowdfunding as well is that if you're actually out doing a raise, you're not allowed to say you're raising. You're not allowed to publish that out there in the ethos of, that is called general solicitation. You're going to get slapped by the SEC here in the United States. They might levy fines against you. So you have to be very careful about that. But if you're actually doing an equity crowdfunding, or a Reg CF as we call it, the minute it's filed with the SEC, you can scream it from the rafters. And so it's a phenomenal way to get yourself in front of investors that are on those platforms. Let's talk to Republic. I work very closely with them and the folks over there. They will tell you one of the secrets too is they'll tell you they have 170,000 investors on their platform. Yeah, I love those guys. They have 170,000 people that have invested. They're not stereotypically hardcore investors. Of that 170 though, over 30,000 are actually accredited investors. So let's be clear, my aunt is not going to invest in your biotech, but by getting on one of these platforms and being able to message it, to be able to say you're raising, to be able to show the traction, getting in front of over 30,000 accredited investors on one of those platforms, that's one of the benefits. And these platforms are absolutely looking for a lot of true tech companies. Biotech is huge. I work with a lot of companies that are doing a lot of functional type items, medical type items. And so you're able to get out in front of that sort of an audience. And I think that's something that is, where you would truly get the benefit. I don't know that a reward-based, without knowing a little bit more about how you're working, I don't know if a reward-based play and going true B2B is going to help on the reward side, but I definitely think that equity could give you all of the same benefits and allow people to learn about your company. And so those are some of the secrets on that side too.
Thank you. We have another question here. Thank you for the great presentation. Certainly changed my perspective on the scope of crowdfunding. I'm the founder of Jovian Tech, an AI SaaS competitive insights provider for food and beverage companies. We launched our product in May this year, and we have many F500 pilot customers with new converting to paying customers. We're seeking for 500K round now, and I wanted your take on approach crowdfunding. Do you have key metrics that ensure a successful crowd raise based on a stage a startup is in? Thank you very much.
Tarun, that's a great question. So there is really no metric on where you are in crowdfunding and your success rate. I want to be very clear. One of the reasons why I've always loved crowdfunding and why I was so flattered that every single company that used PieShow was 100% successful was because crowdfunding is a process. It is a very focused, strategic initiative. And so if you follow crowdfunding best practices, as we say, then that is the best way to be successful. And statistically speaking, if you follow it's a process and it's a strategy. And it's quite mathematical. Like if you look at the number of emails you have, you know that you're going to have a 2% conversion. And if you know that this is the average contribution rate, then it's a mathematical game at the end of the day. And so it's by pulling all of those things together, and as a talking point, it's something that you might be able to provide. I mean, you've got pilot customers that are looking at all of these types of things where you're going to provide insight to food and bev. Food and bev is my sweet spot. I have personally an email list of over 25,000 people that are interested in food and bev. When you put that out there, I just 2 weeks ago was having a conversation with Indiegogo. They're looking at the food and beverage vertical. It is the new sweetheart of the tech space and where people are finally putting more focus in that food and beverage space. So if you were looking to raise 500K now and you wanted to do it on either platform, you could potentially provide your service for all of the food and beverage startups that are there. You could find them using your feedback, your service, get that feedback of what they're liking and not liking, tweak it to these food companies, or go equity and get in front of some of the biggest players. I mean, Plug and Play is a perfect example of working with these corporates. The corporates are watching the equity crowdfunding platforms as well all day long. They're looking for new innovative tools. So either way you want to do that, I think that would be a phenomenal way to do it. I just want to clarify that the metrics aren't based on where you are in the stage. The metrics are all surrounding the activities that you do, the number of emails you might have, the number of outreach you do, the speed at which you get your first contributions. A company like Republic or Seed Invest, they're going to vet you. If they feel that you're ready to launch on their platform and they put you out there, they on paper will say that they, you know, statistically speaking, they'll get you about 60-65% of your minimum goal. That's the other thing, is that you might want the million, but if you make your minimum, which means that then you're successful, which might kick off auto invest and other things like that, that's where they're going to come in and that's where they're going to help. So, and I'm happy to talk to you more in depth. If you want to set up some time, we can have a quick call and give you some other insights, but I hopefully that'll give you, it's got nothing to do with where you are. It's how you're successful with the process.
Perfect. Thank you. Do you have any insight on B2B and marketing a technical product on a crowdfunding site? How technical should your message be?
That's a phenomenal question. So bottom line, you need to explain it in a way that your mother would understand. That's the way that I always explain when I was installing SAP for people, and people will be like, oh, I'm not understanding and I'm scared and I'm concerned. You will have the opportunity to share your super tech type info, whether it's in your deck or whether it's in your follow-on documents, or, you know, if it's in your deal room, you can absolutely be technical. But think about it. Most people that invest are investing in the idea, they're investing in the opportunity of what it could be, and they're investing in the team. There's going to be so many people that are going to want to invest in you, but they don't want to feel stupid. They don't want to feel like they don't understand what they're doing. They understand you're going to be the expert. And if it's an investor that is incredibly intelligent and does understand what you're doing, then, you know, you need to talk to your crowd. And so as you have those conversations, you can be super tech, but if you're actually on a platform, the message and the core story in your project page needs to be written in a way that people can understand it and really, which is why the perfect example is why people say, I'm the Airbnb of X, I'm the Uber of Y. That's why they do that, because in that instant, people can understand what you're doing. And the faster you can bring them on board, the more they're going to be able to invest and get behind you and understand and support you. If they feel like they're not getting it and they're feeling stupid, candidly, then they're not going to want to invest in you. So I would absolutely caution you to go less techy and really find a way to communicate your message in an open and transparent way that they understand and can inherently know what you're doing.
Okay, we have questions are popping here. How much should be budgeted for a typical Kickstarter in Indiegogo campaign? The goal would be to put product in users' hands. What is the time commitment from a marketing person? 4 to 5 months?
So that's a phenomenal question. I work with a lot of guys at Indiegogo. Actually, as I shared, I'm super fortunate to know Slav, the founder. I work with the head of sales at Indiegogo. I stole my first employee from Indiegogo, so I'm a little biased. But on either platform, the numbers I'm going to give you are on either platform. So the things that you have to look at when you're looking at putting something on a reward-based site is how much are you actually trying to raise? And that is a very good transition into what you're going to spend. On paper, we would expect that you're going to spend 10% of what you want to raise. That might seem a little crazy, but if you're only looking to raise about $25,000, well, then it's a much more wholesome type of a cost, and you can do it quite frugally, for lack of a better word. And you can find ways, I mean, a big part of it depends also on the amount of team. So for example, I am a consultant, full disclosure, that's what I do. I work with a lot of companies that are working on projects. Some of them are reward-based, some of them are on Indiegogo. So if you can afford to pay for, you know, someone like myself for a service, then that's great, because we know the inside track. You know, I can get you in front of the sales team and get you some extra bonus and stuff like that. But I also, my number one focus that I've always done being a project program manager is helping you make sure that you're hitting your deliverables on the right time and knowing exactly what's required. So if you can budget for a consultant, then that's great. that might run you three-ish. If you're just looking for advice, it'd be about 2,500 to 3,000 a month. If you actually want someone to execute on your behalf, like creating all the emails and social and stuff, then it might be higher, like around a $5,000 a month, which is a lot of money. But if you're looking to raise $250,000 on a reward site, typically you absolutely would get that back. But if you have your own team and you're looking to do it yourself, then your costs are going to be an email platform, ad spend on some of the, like a Facebook ad or Instagram ads. Those are some of the highest conversion rates. Emails are also some of the highest conversion rates. Building out a landing page so that things are actually coming to you. So, and then your video can be done incredibly frugally. If you know people that can do that video. And keep in mind, a crowdfunding video is a very different activity than a regular video that just talks about what you do. So I will tell you all the time, don't just throw together old copy of stuff. It needs to be very focused for that. And sometimes people will want to charge 10, 15, 20,000. That's absolutely ridiculous. You don't need to be Steven Spielberg. I think the most expensive video I've seen is like 5,000. And even that to me is crazy. You can do a phenomenal video for $1,000 to $2,500. If you happen to be able to barter with someone, that's absolutely the best way to do it. But then keep in mind, you have to think of what your perks would also be. And one of the biggest things is that a perk does not mean you are, and I'm going to be very candid. It doesn't mean you're ripping people off. It doesn't mean that if you would normally sell it for 100, that you're going to sell it for 85 and ask for $100. They want to feel like they're coming in super early. They're getting a crazy discount, and you want to add as much value in that item as possible. And value does not necessarily mean product. So find other ways, find video ways, find other ways to make them feel important. If you've actually got a product that's going out, invite them to be part of your early focus groups, invite them to be part of a panel that tells you what they like about your product, invite them to be brand ambassadors, add other elements that are going to make them feel special and increase the benefit for them. It's not always about a t-shirt. I had a guy say to me, I need another blank and t-shirt like a hole in the head. So, don't just throw stuff in there. Work with partner brands. Work with someone that can give you free swag that would add value. So find ways to reduce those costs. But basically think anywhere from 0 to 5,000 for your video. Think of using some of the SaaS-based solutions like a MailChimp and a Woodpecker for an email drip campaign. Those can be very nominal. Think of a consultant if you're going to want to do that, anywhere from 2 to 5 grand a month. You might want to use a PR company. They oftentimes are going to be 3,000 to 6,000 a month, and you need to engage them much before a project. You can, if you've got a good audience, launch a project in 2 months. That would be the shortest amount of time I would ever bless someone to do something. 4 to 5 would be utopia. 4 to 5 would be phenomenal. It'd give you a really great way to get a landing page out there, start to grow your base, start to get that community, find your ride or die group. That would definitely be the best way to go about it, Daryl.
Perfect. We have Rachel here. Thank you for the insightful presentation. 2 questions. Is that relevant for a 5 million round after already raised a 2 million from a VC? What about the risk to expose all business plan data? Are there any other risks?
So those are great questions, and I'm not seeing that question is that maybe in the chat instead of the Q&A?
Yeah.
So yeah, perfect. So what we're talking about, is it relevant for a 5 million round? Well, unfortunately on equity crowdfunding, so on some of the equity crowdfunding sites, you can do some follow-on raises. You can do, for example, you can raise much more with like a Schedule A. So yes, you can use an equity crowdfunding site, raise $1 million in Reg CF, and then follow on and do some Reg D or Reg A and raise up to your 5 million. So you absolutely can do that. There's nothing wrong with already having a 2 million round from your VC. It's amplification of your brand and getting it out there. You're marketing, you're getting customer feedback. One of the companies that I'm working with has a product that happens to be a D2C product, and we're going to launch the equity crowdfunding right around the holidays so that people know about his product and then maybe buy it for the holiday as a gift. So see, there's some added bonuses there. So in my mind, there's no bad time. There's no bad time. You just need to really look at where you are, what it will bring you, and if that's what you're willing to do, and if you have the bandwidth to do it, because we all know fundraising can be a full-time activity, and crowdfunding is no exception. And so, you know, if you find, and doing the homework of the right platform, that's one of the big things I do with my clients as well, is what platform is the right one for you? What's your audience? Where is that audience more true to who they're going to do? Which one's going to charge you what fees? And so you want to look at things like that. So what's the risk to expose all the business plan data? Look, here's the thing. The bottom line is the chances of you doing something that someone hasn't already thought about or isn't already doing is so slim, it's not even funny. And that's one of the biggest things. Investors will have seen your idea many times probably. And that's one of the big things that we talk about, is that, you know, if you have something that is, you know, that really is outside of the ballpark and is truly patentable, and it really is something you need to be super crazy careful about, well, then you need to share absolutely everything on a crowdfunding platform. So you might want to steer away from that. But on the other side of it, one of the things that we always say is that, you know, it's fascinating how people think they've got something that's unique. And one of the challenges that with startup founders will say is, you're not unique, you're special. And you need to, in my humble opinion, and the advice that I have, and with working with so many different investors, you need to assume that there's 100 other people doing exactly what you're doing and not worry about it. You just have to be the best at it. And how do you want to be the best at it? And crowdfunding is a tool. It's just one of the ways that you can maybe get in front of those people. You can get out there faster than them. You can get critical feedback they might not have. And so look at it that way, but don't be so worried about people seeing what you're doing. You just need to be better at it. That's the bottom line. You know, like Sir Kensington came out with a new ketchup. Who was going up against, you know, Heinz and thinking and here they are, you know, they had a $600 million exit. I mean, you know, like, look at these companies and how they're doing it. They're not worried about someone else coming out with the same thing. They just want to be the best one at it. So that's the best advice I can give you for that.
That's a great advice. We have time for a couple more questions. So Maxon said, thank you so much for your presentation. What do you think of making self-crowdfunding on a brand's own website for a D2C brand making food products, for example?
So my question to you, Maxon, would be just, why would you crowdfund? Why wouldn't you just sell it on your own website? Think the biggest thing that the platforms will bring you is their own audience at the end of the day. You will get their audience by launching successfully yourself. And so by really bringing the most people in the shortest amount of time to show that you are either fully funded in minutes to hours, that's the goal. And then all of the analytics and all of the AI on those platforms will kick in, and then you'll start getting homepage advantage. You'll start showing top trending. Media is going to look at those sites. You are going to, there's nothing wrong with launching crowdfunding on your own platform. There are people that do it. If you have your own huge, massive community, I wouldn't necessarily say no to it. It's just that, think about the fact that you're going to have to do every single piece of the work to bring everybody to you. You're going to have to bring media to you and investors to you and all of the customers to you and other people that don't know about you. And you're going to lose the benefit of the platform. Some people think, well, this way I'll save that 5% fee. Well, you know, if you were to get money from any other source and only pay 5% for it, like, people are like, what? That's like the cheapest money sometimes. And understand what they're actually bringing you, right? You know, you have, I mean, Indiegogo, Kickstarter, there's $600 to $800 million businesses that have hundreds of thousands and millions of users on their site. So if you do your part and you launch properly, then those people are looking for you. And that's where people are now actually going to see things. Like when I'm emailing Mark Cuban and he's talking about Mark Cuban companies, one of the things they look at is, they're looking at the fact that these companies have the street cred of a reputable platform, because those are people that didn't know about you before you launched, and now you've launched, and they actually are seeing what you're able to do in front of an audience that you didn't have before. So it gives you a little bit more street cred to do it on a platform that isn't necessarily your own. It's certainly not impossible to do it on your own. It's just that it puts every ounce of onus on you and on your own platform. Again, if you have your own huge network, if you've got like 500,000 followers and they're all engaged followers and not just numbers, because it's never the number. People will say to me, well, Cheryl, I have 1 million followers. Well, that's irrelevant if none of them are engaging with you. It's about engagement versus sheer volume. So you always want quantitative versus qualitative. So just think of it that way. So it's not impossible. It tends to be harder though. And you have to do a lot more of the heavy lifting.
Perfect. Well, with that, we conclude all the questions that we had for today. Again, thank you so much for joining today, Cheryl. Really appreciate it. I think the startups really value the webinar. I'm going to be sharing the recording after. Feel free to email at gcamilli@pnptc.com. I put it here on the chat box. If you want to get connected to her, I'm happy to set up a session.
Yeah, it's been such a pleasure. And thanks so much for listening to me, guys. It's, just know that it's an option. My number one goal is for you guys to know what it does, what it doesn't do, and just know that it's a tool that you can use to either market yourself or grow your base, and you make money at the same time. So it's like a free gift with purchase, so it's a super cool new way for people to do different things. And, when they do it right, it's so rewarding, because the thing that you're going to really, the biggest benefit is you're going to really know every single person that believed in you. And that's one of the reasons, because startup land is hard. It's challenging. It can be incredibly lonely. I work with a lot of founders, and we just have conversations of how I'm alone and I'm doing this and it's so hard. And, when you know that you've got hundreds to tens of thousands of people that believe in what you're doing and are watching for you and rooting for you, that can sometimes also, that's a benefit that, you can't really wrap your arms around, but it can help you get up on those days that are a little bit harder to get up. So, and know that people really want you to be successful, and this gives them an opportunity to help you with that. So I'm happy to chat with anyone, in the future, and Gabriella will share my info. And so it's been such a wonderful opportunity to talk to you guys. So best of luck with all of your businesses. And I look forward to following up with anyone that wants to. Thanks so much, Gabriella. This was so fun.
Lovely session. And happy Friday.
Happy Friday, everybody. Have a great weekend.
Bye.
Bye.